All right. I think we got people here. We got a PowerPoint presentation rolling, and let's get started. Can you guys see that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. And all right. So again, we're on our next session talking about Dead by Daylight lore. And so, of course, welcome everybody, and thank you to our panelists for showing up. And they're going to have a variety of things to say, and it might be short, it might be longer. We're going to enjoy the moment. There's no pressure. But again, Human, welcome. Ricky, welcome. Siri, welcome. And let's get into it and start the killer side. And so, all right, now you guys haven't seen the slides, so you guys are seeing this in real time. I was thinking to myself, how do I create a killer criteria? And the best I could decide was there's two scenarios for killers. Either they work well for the entity and they're murdering everybody. They're getting their 3Ks, 4Ks, they're wiping the lobby. Or the killer struggles and then they experience mayhem. They're like, man, I'll tell you what, Siri's running away, Human's running away, Ricky just finished the last gen, and Mal is already opening the exit gates, and it's just mayhem. And they're not getting the people they need. So it's basically like a success failure, but we're going to kind of frame it as murder and mayhem. And then I mentioned mystery because there are some things about the killers that are mysterious, and we'll be talking about those. I took this quote by Wednesday Addams just because it kind of fit the vibe, although we're not here to talk about the Addams family. All right, so that being said, I'm going to stop just for a moment and connect a concept to our first few sessions. So we've talked about the Dead by Daylight universe. We've talked about the first segment of Survivors. And some of the stories are like almost fantastical. They're like, oh, well, all of a sudden a fog just appeared and off they go. Or all of a sudden, a darkness overwhelms the person and they're bleeding out, but all of a sudden they're okay and there's no more blood and they just go on. And we have these memories in these journals that indicate that in their original life, they're going through these catastrophic events, and then all of a sudden, just someone waves a magic wand, and then they're in another place, another time, and everything's just washed away, and they're good as new. And I was playing a game that's also done by the Dead by Daylight developers, and it's called Casting of Frank Stone. And actually, I think the first episode just dropped tonight in YouTube. But anyhow, in that game, it is completely tied to Dead by Daylight. It's basically the premise of how a killer was born, how he came into existence and was embraced by the entity. That's kind of the gist of it. But Mal is wandering around the casting of Frank Stone, and of course, like any story game, the developers add these little trinkets and things you can pick up that kind of give more story, right? And one of the little souvenirs that was laying around in one of the rooms was this book. More precisely, it was in the garage. In 1980, it was the garage where they produced the Murder Mill movie. And this was just laying on a workbench. And it was a book called The Oracle of the Omniverse. And if the PowerPoint wigs out, just let me know in real time because I can't see whether or not it blanks out for resource management things. But basically, the premise of the book, and it only gave 2 pages, is that this person entered into the Omniverse in their mind, and in their reality, and if you look on the left side, the Calhoun family had a tragic loss, and they lost their little son, George. But in this other universe, this other omniverse that this person traveled to, which is the picture on the right, he talked about the idea that there's a infinite number of possibilities that a person could experience. And in his universe, this little Georgie little guy like lost his life. But in this other universe they went to in the Omniverse, George is growing up and he's middle aged and he's living his own life with his own family where he's alive. And so, this being official Dead by Daylight lore, we discover that the Omniverse, which is kind of what they are talking about, one person can exist in multiple universes at the same time with different results. And it's kind of along the lines of like maybe like Marvel, like the Marvel movies where there's multiple versions. Like what was it? What was the Spider-Man movie where there's like three or four of them?
Oh, Into the Spider-Verse?
Yeah, that one. And the idea is that there's different versions of the same person. And so this is an important piece of information related to how characters get into the grasp of the entity because they could have died in their original universe and they get pulled and they're alive in the entity's universe. And all of a sudden, we like for example, we talked about Trap from the Saw movies, and Ricky wasn't he bleeding out? Didn't he get shot in the chest or something like that? And he's bleeding
Yeah,
out.
he got shot in the chest, he's
Yeah.
bleeding out,
So
and
he's
then suddenly he's
so he's
like, "Oh wait, there's no blood there."
yeah. So
This
he's bleeding
jerk
out, and
killed
all of
my
a sudden
friend.
a fog surrounds him, and he all of a sudden the environment around him changes, and he like feels his shirt, and there's no blood, and all of a sudden he's good as new. And so the Omniverse concept can support Tap dying from a gunshot in his original universe, but getting pulled into the entities universe and being a victim survivor, and them existing in both of their universes. So that's kind of important because as we read the lore, like you read about the fog just taking people, and it's like, well, my goodness, like how are I mean, are they alive? Are they dead? We don't really know. But this particular document, which is official lore, tells us that there's multiple realities where people can be alive in one universe, dead in another, and there's an infinite number of possibilities, and the entity just kind of cherry picks who they want for their killers and who they want for their survivors. And so that's kind of a useful piece of information that I didn't have when I made the original session, but it is relatable. And so let's continue on. Um, so we got our first one. We got our first guy here, Herman Carter. Man, this guy's whacked out. So this is kind of the premise of how we'll talk about the killers. I'll be the first person to kind of give a presentation about the Doctor. He's my killer main from like a long time. Ever since I started playing, he's my main is the Doctor. And so the highlight reel, I'm not going to read all of the text, but some of the highlights that I took away is he worked for the U.S. government in the CIA. He was like an interrogator. They got him right out of what looked to be right out of high school, or perhaps college. It doesn't say exactly, but basically he got recruited by the CIA and started working on black sites. Where they interrogate prisoners and they're trying to find out like espionage secrets and military secrets, and he's working for the government, like interrogating people. And unfortunately, as his lore continues, which is a really long lore, we discover that the Doctor has been like ending people nonstop, and we find that he's using electroshock therapy in his interrogation, and it gets so bad that it's not listed here, but it got so bad that the prisoners in the Memorial Institute are like, hey, we will go to anybody else. Let anybody else interrogate us. We just don't want to go to the Doctor's area. And the prisoners were begging not to go to the Doctor as an interrogator because they heard like screaming in the night and like the dead bodies just being carted through the halls, and they know this Muppet is like tearing through people nonstop as an interrogator. So much the prisoners are begging not to go to the doctor. Give us any other interrogator. We don't want to go to the doctor. And then when they close the site, they find all these people are dead, and there's one consistent character trait: head trauma. And he's like really messing people up bad. So additional lore. His first kill, he's being mentored by another doctor in this CIA site, and he just kind of loses it, and he picks up this club and just whacks his mentor across the head, killing him. And then it kind of concludes that memory with, at this point in time, he's ended his mentor. He's like risen to a place where he's terrorizing everybody in the facility. And the conclusion is he doesn't have any rules. There's no limits. And he goes as far as his imagination will take him. So how did he get taken? No one knows. The site was empty, and there's no other scrap of journal or memories to indicate where how he got to the trial grounds. It's unknown. So as we go on, and that little picture on the right, that's the doll. That's the Doctor doll from Frank Stone, that game. That's the little souvenir. So then we get to the last page. This is kind of where we have like the discussion, and we'll kind of summarize this: is every killer can fulfill their mission like through two means. They have physical capability, like they're strong, they're fast, something just natural, what a normal person could do, right? And then the second is supernatural. The entity gave them some ability, some supernatural advantage. Or in their original world, they were magical to some degree, and they have the ability of using the supernatural to hunt down other victims. So with that being said, if we had to put the Doctor into a category, I would say I don't think he's crazy in terms of physical. I think he's just a normal guy. So he's not spectacular in that. Supernatural, he was given the ability of shocking Muppets by the entity. He was given the ability to electrocute people by the entity. Do I think he's going to be murdering people, or it's going to be mayhem and people are scurrying away? I think he's hunting people down, and I think he's murdering way more than mayhem. I think he's very successful as a killer. And he shows no moral compass. So he is just absolutely ending everybody. And he's being empowered by the entity with the shock, the Carter shock. He is absolutely murdering the lobbies on a consistent basis. All right, what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts? Let's start. Ricky has done the survivor side. So Ricky, how about you give your thoughts very briefly, and then Human and Siri, you can chime in if you think just murder mayhem.
So I agree. He doesn't seem to be super physically talented. His main talent that brought him to the CIA base was, he was not afraid to cross the line, and he had very good methods, but it wasn't physical. It was all scientific stuff, and, electroshock therapy, all that.
Right.
And the ability to just electrocute people, and the fact that it just not only is it electrocuting people, but it drives them crazy to the point where they think they see him where he isn't and stuff.
Yes. If you play in game, when you get to the second stage, you actually start seeing him manifesting, and your screen will start glitching out. Yes, definitely. So what do you think? Murder, mayhem?
I think definitely murder, just because, as a survivor in that situation, it would be really hard to keep your wits about you.
Yeah.
And, eventually, no matter how mentally gifted you are as a survivor, you're going to fall to that.
Yeah. But I think stealthy survivors that can assess the situation, they're going to mayhem. They're going to escape. Because the key is, if you can evade his shocks, well, guess what? He's just an average guy. So I think he's murdering more often than mayhem, but if they're stealthy survivors, they're going to get out more often than not, just like in real game. What do you think, Human?
I would probably lean more towards the mayhem, because his abilities make them go insane, but not all of the survivors would fully succumb to that. Because like in game, you can still do objectives and stuff while you're insane.
Right. And from a lore perspective, there's some that have really strong mental fortitude. Yeah. Any other comments? Or are you good? Good.
That was about all
You're
I
good.
got.
And then Siri, what do you think? We won't ask you to elaborate. What do you think? Is Doctor going to be murdering people, or is it going to be mayhem and like the survivors are getting out more often than not? What do you think?
I think it's going to be mayhem because whenever I think of this character, I always remember like Supernatural, that one episode. Same thing. There's like a doctor who's like a ghost that's experimented on patients and whatnot. And it's just like most of the time, it's like they are only stuck at their knowledge, you know? They're good at opening people up and whatnot. But when it comes to generally like murdering people, I think that might be a little bit harder if the person's not willing to die. So,
I really I like that because here's the deal: is in the Institute they're like strapped down, they're handcuffed, they're not going anywhere, they're a captive. Yeah. Whereas in the trial grounds, every Muppet for themselves. No one's like locked down, and I had not factored that in. I like that thought, and maybe it's maybe we're getting 50-50. And maybe it's some murder, some mayhem. Okay, that's good. Good discussion. All right, let's go on to our next killer, which is the pig. The pig. No, did any of you adopt the pig? Someone adopted the pig.
I think it was me. Hold up. I don't know if
I forget.
I need to remember. I'm pretty sure. I think it was me because I find the pig silly.
Yeah.
Mostly pig players.
Yes. Okay, yes, it was. Okay. So you don't have to like read anything. The audience can read it. The panelists can read it. But what are your thoughts just on like on the person as a character?
Okay, I don't know any of the lore, so I'm gonna read it. Guys, you're gonna get it narrated by Siri Lush.
Okay.
When John Kramer, better known as Jigsaw, planned for his son to be born during the Chinese zodiac's year of the pig, he wanted it to represent fertility and rebirth, a new beginning for him and his wife, and the start of a charmed life for his son. But that plan was shattered on the night that a junkie broke into his wife's clinic, hoping to score. After this event resulted in the death of his unborn son, John finally caught up with the junkie, making him his first test subject. And the pig was changed forever too. It became a representation of the disease that was rotting John from the inside. A reminder that we are just meat unless we elevate ourselves by our actions, by grasping life from the jaws of death. The pig became a vessel, an agent of Jigsaw, conveying the subjects to their test. For some of those who emerged victorious, the pig could still be a rebirth into their new lives as apprentices, even disciples of Jigsaw.
Nice.
Whew.
Very good.
I find the pig very fun, especially as it is a stealth character. Same idea as God. Ghost, is it?
Yeah, Ghost. No. What? Ghostface? Yeah, I think Ghostface.
Yeah, Ghostface. Yeah.
We're gonna have him later.
Ghostface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, just the fact that it's just entirely just a person who was already a criminal at the start and just was experimented to be a pig. It's like this guy has intelligence.
Yeah, and the curious thing is that Amanda Young in the movies, and again, I've only seen like one of the movies, she basically adopts the moral code of Jigsaw. And she's like, it changed my life. And by me taking Jigsaw's place when he passes away, I'm going to help other people like change their lives. And so she basically adopts the Jigsaw's moral code and takes on his legacy. And okay, that's interesting. Any other thoughts about her, like even from a gameplay perspective?
Gameplay perspective, I just find that the players are really fun with the pig. Like, it's just like it's simple. Boop the nose and you'll be fine.
Oh, that's a very good point.
If not, you're dead.
Now, you mentioned boop the nose, and I've actually done that. And as playing a pig killer, I've actually had people try that on me. And I'll sometimes play along, depending on if they're like being toxic or not. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
The Benedict Baker, he's like wandering around, he gets scared. He steps into one of the red closets or the cabinets, and then she's like, "I know you're there, but I'm gonna give you another chance," and walks off. Just lets him go.
Yeah.
Um, so that's interesting. And then she was taken by the fog. Darkness engulfs her vision, and all of a sudden she's in the forest at the campfire. So,
Mhm.
all right, and then we won't really have to talk too much about. People can kind of see the power that the killer has and the perks. We won't elaborate on those, but what's your take on Murder Mayhem?
I think it's like a between of both, honestly. It's just like it's for her to decide.
Okay, okay,
I say like I find that when it comes to stealth killers, they're really good at killing people. They're just like very like they can easily sneak up on you. And a
yeah,
lot of times people are just used to the big giant killers that are
hmm
just stalking around, you
right,
know?
right.
But when it comes to stealth killers, it's sometimes like a big startle.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. So Ricky, what do you think? Murder Mayhem.
I think it's kind of on a similar note of like even in the lore it mentions a couple times where you know he just doesn't always decide to go for the kill. Sometimes he's just like, you know what, you're fine. Go have some fun.
This one's on the
Um,
house. Yeah. Go
so this
scurry
one,
off.
like, I think he's definitely capable of going full murder mode. But I think there are times where he's just like, I don't feel like it. Y'all can run around and have fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. What do you think about that, human? What's your take? Murder Mayhem.
I would also just lean into Mayhem like the Doctor.
Yeah, yeah,
She, as a character, has a bit of lore to her, but I don't think her abilities are anything too special.
yeah, yeah. I think to kind of wrap up the thoughts on her, she has no supernatural ability. Her physical capability, she is a strong. She appears to be like strong, fast, stealthy, um, and but she doesn't have. She's not like super strong or super fast. She doesn't have. She's not beyond like normal human capabilities, and uh, and she has a moral code. So like I see her as the killer who, like, depending on what the survivor is doing, like, all right, this one's gonna live. I agree with Siri. Like, she's gonna be like, uh, you know what? That character, you've been flashlighting me all game long. You dying. I don't care if everybody else like gets out. You dead. Or like, you know what? They were kind of funsy. They look like a new player. They look like they're innocent, and just lets them go. Lets them walk. So I tend to think leaning more towards Mayhem. I think she picks who. I think it really puts her in hot water with the entity because the entity wants everybody dead. But I think she's like, no, I'm going to decide what I do, and I'll deal with the consequences later. And I think I personally think this killer is in the doghouse regarding the entity because the entity wants all the survivors toasted, and she's like, no, I'm going to be picking that. And I tend to go towards Mayhem.
If they're having emotions of like fear and joy instead of like the fear and like just more fear, I think the entity might not care as much because they still get emotions out of it.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Although it has been said in some lores that the entity really wants them to have a killer instinct. He prefers them to like the fear and the anxiety are the stronger emotions. He
Hmm.
does want his killers to be like ending people. But I agree. Even if they escape and they have hope, they're given the hatch. The pig is going to be the one that be like, all right, you're the last one. This one's on the house. You can have the hatch, and just gives them the hatch. Yeah, and this one, you never know. I think it's leaning towards Mayhem, and I wish in game they would like make her roar, her charge roar, less noisy. I think she'd get a lot more kills and be played more if they like.
For real.
Yeah, that is so loud. It's fun playing her as a killer, but there's way too much audio advance notice. All right, Oni. Who had Oni? I think I put Siri as all the Siri stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
we're at 7:25 ish, and so we need to wrap up for Siri's
Yeah.
schedule. But all right,
So I say, Belle, you do it. You.
okay, very good. Some highlights. This Muppet, absolute like terrorizer, and he is like pure rage, bloodlust. This Muppet is like ending like entire groups of samurais. He is like peak physical condition, and like, I read that he found this lord that insulted him, killed everybody in this village, found the lord just hiding, and grabs his tongue, just tears his tongue out, just on premise. Uh, in terms of lore, he actually accidentally killed his dad in a battle when his dad was like masked as a samurai. He kills his dad, has remorse, and then the entity's like, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna take your dad," and just like fog takes him. So his dad is like somewhere in the trials. And then as for like how was he taken, all these Muppets, they see that they're the Lord that gives them like a good life just got ended, and all these farmers and stuff, they grab pitchforks, guys, clubs, and they end up killing him. And notice the frenzy mob drags Kazin into a stone mill to continue the torture and leave him to die a slow death. When they return, the mill is filled with a strange black fog, and all of a sudden he's toast. He's gone. And that's how he got taken right before he died. Siri, what do you think? Murder Mayhem.
Definitely murder. Okay, this guy has killed so many people, and it's only because a mob got him. But we're only dealing with 4 survivors here,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting that monks in the area, I forgot to mention this, monks believe that he was possessed of a demon, which may have indicated why he was like so like just ramped in terms of physically. All right, human, what do you think? Murder Mayhem.
I would probably agree on murder. He's extremely strong physically. Yeah, the entity buffed him a bit more than he was when he was alive.
And
it took a lot to kill him.
And in game, like when you're wounded, you're dropping these little globs, which means he also has like a hunting tracking mechanic.
He gets rewards for hitting you.
Yes. What do you think, Ricky? Murder Mayhem.
Definitely murder. I mean,
yeah.
Tapping into just physical things. He took on 12 samurai by himself and won.
Yeah.
Versus 4 average people. Yeah, there's no way you're escaping that.
Yeah. To me, I think like 100% murder. And he's not going to flinch. Mm-hmm. He's going to end everybody. He's going to be one of the most, if not the most efficient killer, like in the entire universe, like the entire Dead by Daylight universe. This Muppet is going to end everybody and not even flinch. Yeah. All right. So Executioner. I think this is the last one, Siri, for you. There's not a lot.
Yeah. Pretty
much just from the movie. He kills monsters. Like he's the monster to the monsters. It calls him merciless and unforgiving. He agreed to go into the fog. He's like, yeah, I've ended everybody. I'm just sitting here doing nothing. And all of a sudden the fog shows up and he's like, yeah, let's do this. It feels like a right. And he just walks into the fog. An invitation to duty and sadism. And Pyramid steps into the fog, accepting his obligation. He just walks in. He's like, yeah, this feels right. Let's go. Let's do this. What do you think? Murder Man.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I know I might take this a little bit longer, but like what I enjoy about the Executioner is that it's like another stalker type of character.
Okay.
I've seen like a bit of the gameplay of Silent Hill and whatnot, and it's kind of hard to say if it's murder or mayhem because the goal is for the Executioner is to like kind of like recover someone like from like their like bad emotions a bit.
Okay.
Like it's kind of like showing like a really bad form of like their regrets. And so I think it depends on how much regret the survivor has in lore wise.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's like it's kind of hard to tell because like depending on the survivors that are there, and I bet they have a lot of regrets. Like, yeah, hell yeah, murder. But if they like get rid of their regrets or whatnot, or like accept them, then they're Gucci. They're fine.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So you're saying that based on movie lore, if he looks and he senses innocence with the survivor, he's gonna be like, nah, like just go on, just get out of here, like go get yourself a Dr.
Not
Pepper.
exactly like innocence, but acceptance. You know, because
mind if I
mainly
jump
like
in?
with the main, yeah,
Yeah, go for it, human.
So his whole thing is judging people. So
Mhm.
a part of his thing would be that if he realizes that they aren't fully accepting their past or whatever it is that's conflicting them, that's when he does his thing.
Interesting. So there's a judgment factor before he commits to like letting them go or ending them. Interesting. What do you take on this, Ricky? What do you think?
I mean, I'd agree. It depends on on how he judges them. If he judges them as someone worthy of death, that there's no escape from it. But otherwise, he'll let you go.
Hmm. Yeah, I think he's leaning more towards murder on, and the Muppet is like huge. Um, Also in movie lore as well. I think that he leans towards murder, but I think he's slow to his first kills because he's assessing people.
Yeah.
And then once he decides and makes his quote unquote judgment, then it's either like you walking out and you getting hatch, or you're like you're on the hook, you're done. So I think leaning towards murder in terms of capability, but I think he makes decisions based on his judgment, and he might let someone have the hatch or the exit gates. Good points. And then I
Yeah.
believe this is your last one, right?
This was me.
Oh, this is you. All right. So, and Siri,
Yeah.
you're welcome to stay as long as you like, or if you need to like depart.
I have to get
Yep,
going to
I
D
got
and
you. It
D,
was
but thanks
fun.
for having
Yep.
me.
Thank you so much for being a part of
See
it,
you later,
and
Human.
say hi to everybody.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
for sure.
All
Thanks for
right.
having me. Bye
Yep. Be
bye.
good. Bye bye. All right. So we're and again, thank you so much to Siri for being a part of tonight. That was very kind of her to be a part of this event. So we're switching to Huntress, and and take it away. What you got there, Ricky?
So, Huntress's story is basically she grew up in the woods with her mom and going hunting with her mom. And one day, while hunting an elk, her mom was killed by the elk. Uh, she then survived on her own for years and started working her way up through the prey, starting with like squirrels and stuff, and moving her way up. And eventually, she started deciding she enjoyed killing humans. And so she would go into the nearby village, slaughter whole families, but she couldn't bring herself to kill the little girls.
Yeah.
So she would take those girls back to her house and keep them and try to raise them as her own kids, but then they would die of cold or starvation or sickness, and plunging her deeper into her pain.
Interesting. So do you think
She,
that when she kidnapped the little girls, do you think that she thought that she was essentially saving them, and she saw a little bit of herself in them?
yeah, definitely. And
Hmm.
then one of the parts of the lore that's not included on this page, one of the parts
Right.
in her lore is she actually. So it turns out this forest she lived in was in Russia, and
Actually, it is. Next slide. Sorry about that. Let me get you there.
oh, there we go.
There you
Yeah,
go.
so the forest she's in was in Russia, and I based on the lore, it sounds like this was too. German soldiers began to pass through and to try and attack the collapsing Russian Empire. And so maybe this was World War One, but maybe it's World War Two.
Yeah.
Uh, Either way, the villagers' homes were found abandoned, and all that was found left afterwards was soldiers, many of them with violent axe wounds. Entire groups would disappear. And when the war was over, the rumors of the Huntress disappeared with it.
Yeah. Now
That's
this
what
is
we know about the Huntress.
Yeah, this is actually a little bit of like real life reference, like geographical reference, but the Red Forest is actually in the Chernobyl nuclear exclusion zone where the meltdown happened in 1986 in real life. Um, I don't know. Like it mentions the war as if it's the Great War. Do you think? I tend to think that it might be. It might potentially be World War II. Because
Yeah, so
the thing to remember is in I actually wrote this down while you guys were talking in the pre live stream, but in between October and December of 1941 in World War II, Germans actually tried to push into Russia, and they were like stopped because of the cold winter. And the interesting thing is in the lore, she's facing Germans and she's almost frozen. Like she's facing the harshness of the wintertime. And that and it mentions the war. I think this is World War II, and I think this is 1941.
the specific reason I think this might be World War One is because it mentions the Russian Empire. In World War Two, it was the USSR. In World War One,
Ah.
at the same time, at World War One, at the same time that Russia was fighting the Germans, they were also going through the Bolshevik Revolution. So and it
Oh.
wasn't. World War One ended in 1918, and the Russian Empire fell in 1919 and turned into the USSR.
Interesting.
Uh,
Okay, so
so with the fact that it
I'm
specifically
willing to be
mentions the Russian
corrected.
Empire, I'm thinking it's the Great War. But the
Mm.
other thing is, because of how large the USSR grew to be, it was there are historians who refer to it as the Second Russian Empire. But it wasn't collapsing during World War II.
That is
The
true.
only collapse that was happening is the the German soldiers in World War II were actually welcomed into Russian villages because there were many of the lower class Russians who didn't like the USSR. Who
Well,
didn't have faith in the
Stalin
USSR
was like
anymore.
ending people left and right. Joseph
Mhm.
Stalin
Yeah.
was
Not
like
many
ending.
people liked the party at that time.
Yes, you are correct on that.
So they were welcoming, thinking, "Oh, these Germans
Okay.
are here to free us from our oppressors."
So they saw them as
And
liberators. So that really debunks the.
Yeah.
The first thing that came to mind was World War II, but I believe I'm standing corrected. This is more conducive to World War One.
Yeah. This is more conducive to World War One. It's still a
Yeah.
possibility of World War Two, but it's much more conducive to World War One.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Thank you for the additional information. All right. So what do you think?
I think physically, obviously, very gifted. To be able to survive on her own as a young child in the harsh Russian woodlands is insane. And then, of course, being able to take on whole groups of German soldiers at once, again, with
Yeah.
nothing but hatchets, again, absolutely crazy.
Yeah. And I think the fact that it mentioned that she would go in and she would sing the lullaby. Now we know the lullaby is basically the terror radius. That she was like terrorizing the camps, and then like they're like seeing nightmares and hearing this song in the wind, and she's using psychological warfare essentially.
Yeah, she's very physically gifted. She's using psychological warfare, and I know we haven't really mentioned perks much so far this time, but her perks are actually pretty decent, especially Huntress Lullaby I see all the time. Beast of Prey is a pretty regular one. Territorial Imperative is a pretty regular one that I see people using. And of course, like, she's just given the ability by the
Entity.
by the entity. He's just like, hey, you like hatchets, so there's now hatchets in every locker, so that if you run out of hatchets, you can just go pick up more. Again, deadly precision. Like, I'd say she's likely murdering more often than mayheming.
Right.
And even those that manage to get away left scarred.
Yeah, yeah, and it's I tend to agree with that. That the thing that really rang true with me is that she like basically ended entire like military regiments and just like she messed with them. Not only she like end them like via like axe kills, but then she's also like singing into the night and like messing with their sleep. And then yeah, I think she's murdering more than mayhem. I think she's like survival strong. Like in
Yeah.
terms of physical capability, I think her having to like make it on her own and go through the rigors of like a Russian environment that's very harsh, and I think she's very survival strong. And in terms of supernatural, yeah, she has the advantage of the hatchets available and very prosperous for her. I think she's murdering more than mayhem. What do you think, human?
I also lean to murder. She's like almost peak physical form for a human. Uh, I don't have anything else to add. I just was realizing that the Red Forest is at the top of Ukraine, about 100 kilometers north of Kiev.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay. Yeah, but oh, you know what? I have to like pre-live stream. I was sharing with Ricky, and then I kind of like taunted him a little bit. I said, "Oh, you have to wait." Um, we do know that these events took place before 1980 because in the casting of Frank Stone, we find the Huntress mask in a curiosity shop, and so it's assumed that Anna is long dead or gone, and her mask was like picked up as a souvenir and became like the inventory at this curiosity shop in 1980 or even before. So it would seem that she for sure is long gone before 1980. And it would be consistent with what we've been discussing thus far. But you can see her mask in the casting of Frank Stone. All right, what do we got? Freddy. Who had Freddy?
I think I did.
Yeah, what you got, man?
I Hold on, I gotta like move it around so I can actually see.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I've been
All
just
right,
glancing at the stream.
gotcha.
Alright. Even while he lived, Freddy was a creature of nightmares for those who truly knew him. Hiding behind a mask of warmth and friendliness, his actual temperament was known only to his victims. When those victims were finally heard, the parents of Springwood tracked Freddy down and took the law into their own hands. They thought that fire had rid him of a monster that night, that their children were finally safe, but evil as strong as his has a way of surviving. Years passed, the horror was buried, victims mercifully forgot. Then, somehow, Freddy returned, and dreams became nightmares once again. Slowly, Freddy closed in on Quentin. His fear was so strong now that Freddy could almost taste it, but his eyes burned with a defiant hatred that was almost admirable. Freddy drew back his claws.
And then we'll read more of it. There is a lot more lore for the sake of time and space. I didn't include it, but in the actual Dead by Daylight lore, there is a lot more. I just picked the highlights. So the unknown could have been Benedict Baker. He like messed with Benedict Baker.
Everyone messed with Benedict Baker.
Yes,
I think that's
everybody
a common
did.
theme.
Yes, everybody did mess with them. But he did
Yeah,
see Freddy out in the trials, and he said he woke up, but he wasn't at the campfire. Instead, I'm in this wretched forest with memories of nightmares within. Now I'm afraid to sleep, but also to stay awake. He definitely encountered Freddy, and he was taken. He was taken by the entity. Anything else you wanted to add, maybe from movie lore or anything additionally human?
I have never watched his movies,
Oh, okay.
but he uh he's a bit of a shadowy figure more than being like the physical one that we see in the game more.
Right.
From what I've read and heard, is
Mhm.
that he's more of a stealth and then show up, scare them, and then kill them kind of killer
Right.
than
Right.
how he is in the
Yeah.
game where he just shows up and chases.
Gotcha. Now,
In the first movie, he does a lot of like he likes to mess with them before he kills them. Like he'll sneak up on them and then he'll
Isn't-
like crash against the wall
Mhm.
and scare the crap out of them. And they'll turn around and see him and then he'll kill them.
Very good. Very good. One thing I want to bring out, and this, I believe this statement applies to all killers taken by the entity. Now, this was a part of his official lore at the very end, And he says, "Oh yeah, I got brought by a vapor and it enveloped me, and then I was standing in the school." But this is what I want to bring out: his powers were tempered in some ways and focused in others. That means that like every killer, when they come into the fog and they're brought into the trial grounds, basically the entity, we would say like, oh, the devs are doing a balance. They're buffing and debuffing, right? Like, oh, that's too strong, that's too weak, and like giving buffs or debuffs. This
It also
experience, go ahead.
it let them focus more on the, oh, you're getting chased by Freddy Krueger, you're gonna be scared, more than just he shows up and kills them.
Yeah, yeah.
He got more emotion out of it when he focused on some powers.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But it also indicates that the entity knows what he's bringing in, and he'll tweak them. He'll adjust them to best suit the purpose he has for them. And we'll know later in two more sessions, we're going to learn about how the entity actually gave a major power debuff to one of the killers. We're not going to mention it right now, but later. And he said, nah, this Muppet is like way too strong, and actually weakened the killer to be able to accommodate him in the trial grounds. But this I find very interesting is that the entity will tweak and adjust the levels of power that the killers have when they come into the trial grounds. All right, what do you think? Murder Mayhem. What do you think, Human?
I'm leaning a bit more towards Mayhem, mostly because he himself, being supernatural, when he got his abilities tweaked, he doesn't have a way to actually catch them. He was more into the scaring them.
Right. Okay, so he's not going to be
I
like
think
coming out and like hacking someone with a sword or a knife. He's having he can't directly engage with them, and I think that's a massive disadvantage. What were you going to say, Ricky? You can get the next one. What?
Yeah, I lean the same way, just because like looking into movies, he doesn't do a whole lot of killing in the movies. Most of what he does is just scaring the crap out of everybody. He doesn't do a whole lot of killing. He just enjoys the scream. I remember when I watched the first Nightmare on Elm Street. There are so many times where he has the opportunity to kill, and it's the perfect opportunity to kill, but instead he lets them get away so he can scare them again later.
So you think that? Do you think he's actually feeding off the fear himself, not just the entity,
Yeah.
which is like, we'll just say like high level, but you think that he as an entity, he himself is getting kicks out of like scaring people and creating anxiety. That's an interesting thought.
He is a dream demon, so that would check out.
Oh really? Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so that is he's also feeding off the emotions of the people he's ending. Interesting. Okay, so we got leaning towards mayhem and leaning towards mayhem. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I'm putting it as like leaning towards mayhem. He's way too indirect. Sure, he can do some cool tricks and scare you, but scaring you doesn't kill you unless you have a heart attack. So I think
I
that
don't know if you've ever played Krueger, but he gets a lot of blood points even if he doesn't kill everyone.
correct. He's a good farming killer. Yeah. Doctor is the same way. So yeah, I lean towards mayhem. There's definitely better killers that can get the job done. I think he's leaving the entity displeased more matches than not. But I think Freddy doesn't care as long as he gets to like mess with people. All right, what do we got? Who's the next one? Let's continue our pace.
I
Yep.
want to bring up one real quick thing that I
What you
looked
got?
up about the Huntress. She's
Oh.
actually based off a combination of Eastern European folklore and actual context from World War One. In Russia during World War One, there were groups of German soldiers who went missing without a trace. But she is heavily inspired by Baba Yaga, which is like the Russian version of the boogeyman.
Okay.
A Slavic witch folklore who would capture children. And the Huntress Lullaby is a song called Bayou Bayushki Bayou, which warns children to stay away from the edge of their bed or a little gray wolf will come and snatch them away to the forest.
Oh, little gray wolf. Oh, that's
So I
great.
wanted to bring that up.
It's like you better be good, or a little chihuahua is gonna jump on your bed and drag you out into the forest. That's great.
Yep.
That's great. A little chihuahua, like the little yappy dogs, the little yappy dogs,
Yeah.
the little chihuahua dogs that carry you off into the forest. A little gray wolf. Interesting. All right, that's good. Clown. I think someone picked the
This
clown.
was me.
Yep, very good.
So the clown's story is pretty interesting. Basically, summary of a summary is his mom died in childbirth. He and his dad never really got along, and his dad was a drunk. And he one day started collecting bird feathers on his way to and from school. And then started watching the birds outside his house come to the bird box. He managed to borrow some anesthetic from the local dentist and set up a trap and anesthetized the bird. And he initially planned to just hold onto it and look at it, but something within him took over and he killed it. He threw out all the other feathers he'd collected, plucked one feather from this bird and kept it, and threw away and discarded the rest of the bird. He continued killing birds and collecting their feathers like this, eventually moving on to squirrels, raccoons, and even dogs. Then in 1954, a young man went missing. Turns out, Kenneth Space had killed this young man and taken his finger and had kept it in a cigar box with all the rest of his trophies. His dad found the box of his trophies while doing some work in the crawl space under the house. When he got back from work, Kenneth saw that his father had the cigar box and ran away, joined the circus, changed his name to Jeffrey Hawk. He got into drugs and alcohol, but that wasn't enough for him, and he started killing again. He got sloppy. He was sleeping off a drink, and the victim managed to escape. And he woke up to find the rest of the circus trying to take him down. So he whipped his horse and took off into the night.
Now, and a side point before you get further is he whipped Maurice. That's Maurice who we had from last episode, from last session, and so he was whipping Maurice. All right, carry on.
After some time roaming the country, and killing more people, eventually he ended up riding off into the mist.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. What else do we know? Do we know how he got taken by the entity? Do you think it was willingly?
Yeah, somewhat willingly. The lore about it just says somewhere along the way he left the ordinary roads of the United States behind him, traveling through a veil of mist and entering a new realm.
Mm-hmm. Now,
so it seems like it may have been willing.
Okay.
In some form or another, he was at least somewhat willing to enter. And it lists that he felt more at home than he had in his entire life. When he came into the fog.
So I think setting up camp, I think that's the chapel, because we can see the caravan cart. We can see Maurice just like chilling. He's just trying to like rest. He's trying to have relief. So setting up camp, he set up camp at the chapel. But Reddit suggests that he has the ability of moving between the different maps. Like
also,
he can.
Real quick, an interesting difference between something in game and in lore is in game his Mori, he will kill you, cut off your finger, and then like seemingly take a bite out of it. In lore, while his victims are still knocked out and tied up, he will feel and taste the fingers, trying to find the best feeling and tasting one, then cut it off, then kill his victim.
Oh my gosh.
Difference between what happens in game and in lore. In game, he kills you, then cuts off your finger and takes the bite. In lore, he tastes your fingers, then cuts off the best tasting one, then kills you.
Right. On a dev stream, I saw on a Reddit that on a dev stream a while ago, one of the developers made the comment that they felt the clown was the entity's favorite killer. Now, this is early, like years ago, so It might have been the developer didn't know the pipeline of other killers coming out at later times, but at the time of the stream, they made the point that the clown is the entity's favorite killer, which is also contributed by the fact that he let Maurice through. Maurice was the innocent.
Maurice a new eye.
Maurice was the innocent victim, and he's like, "All right, fine. You want to bring your caravan? I'll let you come in. You can even bring your horse." But then when Entity sees that Maurice gets blinded, he's like, "Ah, I need to make this right." And so the community says it doesn't seem that the Entity lets anyone else get to bring stuff in other than themselves.
The Entity just wanted a pet.
Could be. But if you study psychology, usually psycho killers, they usually have a precursor of abusing and killing animals. So he is absolutely going to become a psycho killer in the natural world or in the trial grounds. He is absolutely a psycho killer. The Entity didn't make him into a killer. He was a killer before he entered into the fog.
Yep.
He was just enabled, maybe more. All right, what do you think? Thank you for the thank you so much for the raid. Thank you.
Hey, Girth, you're amazing, Girth.
Thank you, Girthquakes.
So yeah, physically, he's obviously he's got some talent to him. He's able to overpower and kill a lot of people. And
thank you.
In that way, he's also got some speed to him. He's also obviously got some intelligence. And I think with the bonus of the afterpiece tonic and looking at colorophobia as one of his perks.
Right.
Bamboozle and Pop Goes the Weasel I don't see very often, but there's actually I think colorophobia is actually pretty important for one of the more popular builds at the higher rank.
Right.
So given all that together, I'm leaning more towards murder for him. Just because again he's got the physical stats to do it. He's got the bonus of the afterpiece tonic, able to slow and intoxicate his victims, and the bonus of the colorophobia perk. Like, I think more often than not, he goes full murder mode.
Interesting. All right, what do you think, Human? Murder, ma'am.
I would probably say murder on this one.
Really?
He's really strong physically because he was working ropes in the circus, and he's smart enough to be able to capture them without any trace. So if he had a bit more of that in the game, he'd be much better. But his ability to make those tonics is decent enough, in my opinion.
He also has the intelligence of being able to mix concoctions and formulas and chemicals without he himself becoming overwhelmed by it. So I agree. I think he has not like maximum physical capability. He has enough. He's strong. I agree with Human on that. He has no supernatural capability that I'm aware of, other than maybe he's given some leeway as to traveling within the realms of the entity. Perks and killers, your ability and perks. I think the chemicals are like a nuisance, but they're not going to end you. I lean towards murder, but he's not a top tier murderer in lore. He is a psycho killer mentally, but he's not as good at murdering people as other killers are. So I put him more middle of the road. He's gonna murder a lot. He is intelligent. He is strong. But there's better than him. And Mayhem, he kills for fun. So he's the Muppet who's gonna be tunneling you. He's gonna be slugging you. He doesn't care about the rules. He just is he wants trophies. And so I don't think that there's gonna be many Mayhem results. I think he's gonna be middle of the road, but I think more often than not, he's going to be murdering. Absolutely. Good points. Good points across the board. And here we are. Ghostface. What you got?
This one's also me. So, Ghostface is Danny Johnson, also known as Jed Olsen by many. he worked at a newspaper. He got a job at a newspaper and was covering stories of the Ghostface killer. Little did everyone know that was him. Um, at one point, he actually got a video of himself breaking into a house and wrote a story on that, terrifying people.
Oh my
And
gosh.
And um, he only stopped working at a newspaper facility when they finally realized, wait a minute, this guy knows too much, and the law enforcement started looking into him, and he disappeared, leaving a note on his desk saying, "Hey, I hope you enjoyed my stories. I really enjoyed bringing them to life.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, I remember that.
they're like, I, I hope you enjoyed my stories. I enjoyed bringing them to life. Don't worry, I'm not done."
Interesting.
And yeah, and then he, at one point, the way he got captured is he was chilling in his room, admiring um, his handiwork, admiring the stories he wrote about his own murders and stuff like that. And he felt a shiver run through him, and then a chilly breeze turned the humidity of the bedroom into an opaque, freezing fog. He heard a woman shriek, dead leaves crunch under his feet, and he smiled.
Yeah, absolutely psycho killer. I will. I'll ask you this. What do you think? Do you think? Well, actually, no, no, no. Actually, you may or may not have added this. Go over the lore, the extra lore. This is in the memory bank from the Observer. So he's like trying to hunt someone down, right? This guy named Danny. And then he's like,
Yeah,
you know what I'll do is like while he's sleeping, I'm gonna like open the refrigerator door so that it starts beeping. You know how like if in real life
yeah,
you like open the refrigerator and it's like, your refrigerator is open, beep beep, and then it like beep at you. And then the guy comes downstairs, close the refrigerator, and then I put dot dot dot, but then he like does it again. The guy goes back to sleep. He opens the refrigerator again. He does it like 3 times, and then like the guy he starts getting more paranoid, and then the last time before he ends the guy, well, he's like closing the refrigerator door, then he turns on the TV in the next room over. Total psychological warfare.
yeah.
He gets a thrill out of any people. What do you think, Murder Mayhem?
Um, I think he's got the stealth, and then of course he's given the ability to, when stalking people in stealth mode, suddenly make them unaware of his presence. Um, and so I think with that and the fact that obviously he's got some speed to be able to move around a house that quickly and stuff, he's got quite a bit of intelligence to be able to hide himself from the police, or to hide his true identity from both the police and his coworkers at
Right.
the same time. Um, I think he's another one. I'd say he's got the potential for murder. I don't think he's as murderous in the trial as like the clown or the huntress.
Really? You put
But
the clown ahead of him? Really?
I do, when it comes
Interesting.
to the trials, I put the clown ahead of him.
Really? Okay, that's
I do
interesting. Good,
think
good.
that, but I do still, I lean more towards murder than me.
Okay. Human, what do you think? What you got?
I agree with that one. I would also put the clown ahead. Uh,
Okay, no, that's cool. I come into these live streams. My opinion is not law. It's just one of several opinions. No, that's cool. Carry on. Carry on.
well, I play both the clown and Ghostface, and I do feel like the clown is just easier in general.
Mm.
Ghostface puts in more work for his kills, but if
Oh,
you
yeah.
manage to do it properly, you can pretty consistently get kills.
Hmm.
So,
Okay. Okay. So you're leaning towards a little bit more towards murder,
yeah.
huh? Okay. Interesting. Um. Yeah. I mean, physical capability. He is a normal person. He does have a degree of stealth, without doubt. He does not appear to have any supernatural capability. I don't put him as a top tier from a lore perspective. He is like this Muppet is gonna he's gonna mess with you. He's gonna play before he ends you. But I think while he's playing with his victim, the other survivors are like grinding gens. So I think while he gets his kills, the other people are doing other things. That I think he's going to end up with more mayhems. Not like completely mayhem, but I think he's going to be like he's not going to be a top tier murder, and he's going to be like mix bag because while he's toying with the victims he actually kills, the other ones are doing stuff that gets him out. And so he's the guy that's going to be like the 1 to 2K guy. He's not going to be doing the 3 to 4s. He's going to get his kills. He's going to have his fun, but he's not like murdering a lobby with 4Ks all the time. Like from a lore perspective, he's just not there. But when I read the refrigerator story, I'm like, oh, this is like crazy funny. I think it's funny. So that was Ghostfaced. What do we got? Demogorgon. Now, I know this is yours, human. Don't go too much into the other side of his lore. Just keep that part general. We'll get to
Yeah.
him eventually.
Gotcha. So the Demogorgon, to put it shortly, he's from a separate world and was summoned into the real world of the Stranger Things in Hawkins National Laboratory. Held him captive for a while to study him, but he is, he's a technically an otherworlder, and he's incredibly strong physically and has a bunch of supernatural abilities. So he manages to constantly escape and kill a bunch of people.
Okay, now here's a question, and I honestly don't know the perspective from a movie lore. Is he like intellectually at the level of like humans, or is he more animalistic? Like that being, is he capable of emotions? Do we think he's capable of emotions, or is he just like a killing machine and I'm just animalistic and I'm just gonna end whatever's in front of me because I'm like a rabid dog?
I would think, more like a animal, that he can have that sort of emotion to things that he finds are comforting or friendly, but generally speaking, no. He
Mm-hmm.
is more sadistic in his nature,
All right,
or its nature.
now we have to address an important point that came from chat a minute ago. I have not had the moment to address it, but it is an important point. Girthquakes in chat. He made the point. Your refrigerator beeps. He asked the question. Your refrigerator, does it beep? And he's like, "Am I poor?" No, Girthquakes. You are not poor. I do not have a refrigerator that beeps. My boomer parents do have they do have a fancy refrigerator that beeps. But not every refrigerator has a beep to notify when it's turned on. But I thought it was funny.
I've never had a refrigerator beep.
Yeah,
I haven't
same.
either.
Same here. We're just normal people here. But there are like rich people who do have like fancy stuff, and fancy refrigerators will beep at you. Um, there's
It's very
even some
popular to have those in places where keeping things cool is
there's
important.
even
That's
some
why they-
refrigerators that have like a screen built in and built-in Wi-Fi, and you can load recipes onto the screen. Yeah, those exist. That's way past my price range, though. This picture here, we got the Demogorgon. We have, what is it, Quentin and Nancy, and they are running for their lives.
That's Steve and Nancy.
Oh, Steve and Nancy. My apologies. All right. What do we think? What do you think, human? Murder or mayhem?
I would say murder. He's just generally incredibly strong, and he has supernatural abilities with him, such as the abyss abilities,
Mm-hmm.
but like literally just the power.
Right.
But I do think he's gonna be able to consistently catch 4 people.
Really? So you put him like from a lore perspective, like he is actual killing machine, like he is like gonna get 4Ks like majority of the time.
Mhm.
Interesting. What do you think, Ricky? Murder or mayhem?
I think the same thing. Like, lore-wise, pretty much the only reason that he doesn't have much success in what we see of him in the TV show is just that He's going up against a bunch of nerds basically, and nerds come up with crazy ideas of how to do things. Um, after all, we had in real life we had one nerd put a car in space. So like that's just he's going up against a bunch of nerds who already have an idea of what he's like because they play D&D. But that's the only legitimately the only reason in the actual show that he's not very successful. Aside from that, he's extremely strong, extremely fast, and has the supernatural capabilities
Okay,
that come with being from a
here
different dimension.
okay,
So I
here's
think murder overall.
murder overall. I think he's a from a lore perspective, I think he's a top tier murdering machine. I think he is extra human. Like he is not human. I think he's just like rabid dog like ending people. I don't think he has like emotions from a traditional sense. So he has
Yeah.
no holdbacks, no hesitation. He doesn't worry about mercy. He doesn't care about any emotions. He's ending everything in front of him. He is an absolute murdering machine. But I have a question. There is no wrong answer. Just kind of an open floor question. You mentioned that he's associated with a D&D universe, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that he is governed by luck in any way? Like in his universe, he's ruled by a D6 or a D20. So all of a sudden the
I don't
survivor
think
roll.
so.
You don't think so?
So
Like,
that's an interesting thing. So while D&D functions like that, the actual lore of D&D, like for example, like by lore, Tiamat is so powerful that even the strongest humans and even some of the gods can't
hmm,
even fight against
hmm.
it. Fight against it.
Okay, so
But because but in the interest of balancing the game and making it playable, then there's things like rolling dice and luck and all these other things involved.
hmm.
So it's one of those things where like sure in the D&D game he's ruled by D20s and D6s and D8s, but in lore wise it is an extreme threat.
So basically, like
Like
the entity just let him off his leash and just go at it. He just let the
yeah,
Doberman off the leash and the
yeah.
Demogorgon is just going crazy. Okay, no, that's
I
I agree. I think we got like strong S tier murder like from him. Like he's ending the lobbies.
I
What you got?
just realized how funny it would be if his lunge ability was governed by a random effect of how far it goes.
That would be. Oh goodness. And we're sitting at about an hour 15 minutes, which is fine. Now we have to stop just before we go on. Sam's Girthquake said that Samsung has one that has the screen for refrigerator. So if anybody's looking for like a crazy refrigerator that has a screen and Wi-Fi, look out for the Samsung. Apparently they got crazy stuff. And
Speaking of that, I actually saw a video where someone was able to modify their Samsung screen and play Skyrim on their Samsung smart
That
fridge.
is crazy. And also, Girthquakes, there are washing machines and dryers that have Wi-Fi built in, and you can like turn off your washing machine and dryer via Wi-Fi, via app. There you go. All right, so I believe if my notes are correct, this is the last one of the night, and I think this was yours,
I
human, right?
think so. It is
Yeah.
also mine, yes.
Yes. Go for it. What you got?
Uh, so in their background, they were born in the 17th century, and paraconjoined twins in 17th century with their medicine and stuff was like a miracle. But 17th century people did not see it that way. So they were chased around for most of their lives. Uh, Most of their memories are not fully developed because they are just constantly being chased around. If you have adrenaline going all the time, you don't remember stuff as well. So eventually, one of the earliest memories that Charlotte remembers, if I'm right, is that uh, she managed to save her mother from something, one of the people chasing them. And then later on, that built up towards her being a bit more ambitious, and like built up the ego a bit too much. And the mother sacrifices herself to keep the other two safe.
Hmm.
And I think it's one of their quotes is that when the mother dies, they lost all of their joy and happiness in their lives.
Hmm.
And that was when they went more into killing anyone that chased after them rather than simply running.
Yeah, I agree on that. What else you got? Any other things you want to bring up?
Eventually, during a winter when they couldn't really run into a village easily, they were just camping out in a forest. And Victor, the little one, dies to the cold and starvation. So Charlotte carries around the dead body of Victor attached to her for, I think it's a few months. Like he smelled bad at that point, and they eventually find Charlotte based off of the smell. And while she's trying to fight back and not get killed herself, she charges into a fog, or what? Yeah, it says there at
Yeah,
the end.
yeah. And so basically, she embraces acceptance in her mind. Maybe she's accepting her fate. And all of a sudden, like Victor, like jumps out of her, like away from her, out of her, because they were like attached, right? But notice
Hmm.
Victor spasmed and flailed from her chest, a cloud of fog encompassing him. And then later on, she gave chase, calling his name, Victor, Victor, Victor. And then eventually, they get to the edge of a fog, and his face twisted and feral, screaming as a dark hooded figure, which perhaps could be like a manifestation of the entity, emerges from the fog, grabs little Victor, and then pulls him into the fog. And then she's like, no one's gonna take my little brother, and then races into the fog, to catch up. Um, what do you think? Murder mayhem?
Uh, Personally, going off of lore and in game, I'd say May.
Mayhem. Okay. Interesting. Ricky, what you got, man?
Man,
Mayhem.
most like most of her willingness to kill is hatred and protecting her brother, and hatred towards the harm her brother. And like the survivors aren't really trying to hurt her or her brother, so
Right.
she doesn't really have a whole lot of reason to kill people.
Yeah. So mayhem. I think that obviously there's some kind of supernatural factor that drew them into the fog. I'll admit I don't see what the entity really saw in them. Like, why bring them in as killers instead of like? I mean, it'd be kind of weird, but why not survivors? To me, like their lore really gives off like a sad humanity story. Like they were born into the wrong era where like everybody and their grandma is witch hunting. They're
Mm-hmm.
born with like a medical condition which is untreatable because of the era of time they live in, which then makes them and their mom like, oh, she's a witch, like that's demon spawn, and then all of a sudden they're like frowned upon, chased nonstop. They eventually get sold. What is it? Sold to like some people that like a group,
Yeah,
and then
there's a cult
yeah,
that
a
had
cult,
them for
and
a bit.
and then they start experimenting on them. Like to me, it's like one human tragedy after another, after another, after another, and I, I don't see them. Her emotion is driven and connected to the safety of her brother, not to like killing people. I see like a human sadness story. So I don't I see absolute mayhem. I don't think that, and I mean unless like the survivors are like flashlighting the little Victor, I don't see, from a lore perspective, I don't see the killer instinct. I don't know why they're killers.
I
I
would like to think that it's because the killer realized that she could be easily manipulated
and it's a
and that they
revenge
would fit
tour.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's a revenge tour. Yeah, I could buy that, but I don't see him as I don't see them as strong killers. I don't even see them as average killers. I see this as like, from a lore perspective, I see this as a very weak
Yeah.
killer lore, and I see them in another scenario. I see them as better survivors, like a better survivor story than killer story. I this never resonated even before where I thought about doing this series. Like I'm like, what the mess? Like this is a sad human story. Like why are they being made into killer? I don't. It didn't resonate with me, and I see him as absolute mayhem. I don't think that the sister has killer instincts. I don't see that as happening unless someone messes with the little brother. So that was the first killer section, which took us through chapter 19. We're at an hour and 24 minutes. And so for the last few minutes, are there any last observations or thoughts that you guys have about any of the killers? We can go back, or if you just want to make general statements, the floor is open.
The most interesting one, honestly, was I love World War II and World War I, like learning about them in history and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the Huntress was a really interesting one for me to read about.
Right.
And then the additional research I did in the moment, in the middle of the of the stream,
Yeah.
like the fact that she's actually based on folklore from around the time that she's based in.
Right.
Of he's based on the Baba Yaga. Her lullaby warns of a little gray wolf that will come snack you away to the forest.
Right.
Um, all that stuff. Like, I think she has a really interesting story. And it's in a time period that I love researching,
Sure.
and the connection to actual real life lore, like real life legends and lore.
Right.
I think are very interesting. I think he's very unique in that manner. A lot of these are based off of fictional stuff, but this one's based off of semi-based off of like real legends and folklore,
Yeah. And
and I find that extremely interesting.
yeah, it's very satisfying when, like for example, when you look at the Oni, that's based on
Mm.
uh, cultural monster lore, or
Yeah,
regional monster lore, because remember the monks felt that he was possessed. Let me
yeah,
see if I can get there. The monks believe he was
yeah.
possessed by, and in Japanese lore, like that's their monster lore is like you do bad stuff and you're gonna get possessed by some like demon and they're gonna mess you up and everybody you know bad. So this is very consistent
Like
with regional monster lore.
yeah, I love those characters that are connected. Like when they announced the Kursu, for example, like the newest killer. When they announced the Kursu, I was excited because the Kursu is a real Japanese legend,
Right. Yeah, yeah, no,
and
I
they were just
agree.
like, yeah, we're gonna take a literal legend from Japanese culture and make it a killer in the
Yeah,
game.
make it come
And
alive.
I
Yeah.
love seeing that when the game when this style of game embraces actual legends from actual
Yeah.
cultures and
And
brings those into the game.
and I think
And
I
so
think it's
seeing those lore connections is amazing.
yeah, and I think it's respectful that they're not only recognizing like Hollywood licensed characters, they're also alternating with their own original content, or at least maybe motivated by like and inspired by some other ideas. And then they're also beginning to recognize like monster lore, regional urban legends and such. And I think that's we're going to see that more in upcoming killer session. We're going to see more of that, but I agree. I like that they are dabbling more into that, just not relying solely on Hollywood, but they're also like reaching out into like monster lore and urban lore, that I find very appealing. Human, what are your thoughts? Anything that you want to end on? Any observations,
Uh,
thoughts?
just something funny about Pyramid Head. It's not really like lore or anything, just something for the technical part of the games.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, when he shows up in movies and stuff, he's 7 to 9 feet tall.
Right.
In the game, I think he's give or take around there.
Mm-hmm.
In Silent Hill 2, he is the same height as the main character.
Really? So they shrunk them?
So Yeah, so part of the fan theory is that his height, his size, and strength is relative to the amount of guilt the person he's after feels. So
Interesting.
it might be that when he's bigger in Dead by Daylight, it might be more like a collection of all of the survivor's guilt that he's chasing in said match.
That's interesting. I watched Silent Hill, if I remember correctly, and I don't watch very many scary movies, but Silent Hill. All right, I have a confession to make. By the end of the movie, I was rooting for Pyramid Head. I felt like, there was some of the mother's love. There was like him. He was kind of forced into this path. I found myself, not like despising him as the villain of the story, if that makes sense. Um, so interesting if you're looking for a Halloween movie. That Silent Hill would be a classic for sure. But actually, by the end of it, I'm like, this isn't like he's not as villainous as I originally thought he was. He's not as bad as I thought for the reasons that were revealed as the movie progresses. But that being said, again, thank you so much for each of you contributing. And Siri, thank you for joining us earlier in the first half hour. Um, Next week, we're going to be talking about the last segment of Survivors. And then the last Thursday of the month, we're going to be talking about the last segment of Killers. So we have 2 more live streams, and we're going to be posting them to YouTube. And people get a chance to, it's not going to disappear off of Twitch in like 30 days or something like that. It'll go to YouTube eventually. And I want to thank everybody for just being a part of it. And if you're new to Dead by Daylight, I'd encourage you to check out all the other videos that are going to be in this series. You're going to learn stuff about a handful of different things, and it'll help you enjoy the game that much more. But that being said, Human, Ricky, Siri, thank you so much for being a part of it. And we're sitting right at wow, that is to the minute, an hour and 30 minutes and 53 seconds. That's good time management, isn't it? You got a good moderator when you got it down to a minute. And so again, thank you so much for being a part of it, and hopefully we'll be able to see everybody again next Thursday where we talk about the survivors. And there's some doozies coming up, so make sure to be there. And again, thank you so much. Y'all be good. Peace. Bye bye.
Peace out, everyone.
Bye bye.